introduce myself. My name is Jorge Peña. I'm an assistant principal here in BISD. I work for Burns Elementary. And let me give you some more information about my background. I was an A-STEP graduate in 2004. So I was sitting where you're sitting. Well, not where you're sitting, because they used to be held at BHC, the Las Campanitas Center. That's where they have the A-STEP classes. So I came to A-STEP, got my degree in history. I was not planning to go into education when I graduated. My goal was to be a border patrol. That's what I wanted to do. Passed my test, become a border patrol agent. I scored one of the highest scores in that class. I passed my medical check, my background check. But I realized that I did not pass one test, the color vision test. I found that I was colorblind. So that threw a hamper into my plans. So then I go, okay, what am I going to do with this degree? I have a bachelor's in history. It's like, what can I do? I can't work in a museum, which is in Brownsville, right? So then I heard about the A2 program. Started to do some research. And sure and behold, I signed up for the next session. And I majored in, I went into the Institute for Generalist Bilingual. So that was that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do elementary. So then, after that, I took my test. I took my Texas exam, the generalist bilingual. Back then, you could split it in two, which is what I did. I split it in two. I took the PPR, passed the first chance, and then I took the language exam, which is for the Spanish, and I passed all three of them. The first try. A-STEP did prepare me because. Before then, I had no clue as to what education was all about. So some of you folks that were like me did not know, this is kind of like something, that maybe you didn't think about doing, maybe a career change. I will tell you that, it is what it is, and it's going to be what you make of it. But if you pay attention, to your instructors, you take good notes, you will be prepared for those exams. Okay, and I'm a graduate from this program. I got my master's degree, became dean of instruction, and then I shifted over to assistant principal. And I'm hoping to apply for principalship this summer. So hopefully I get my own school. So yes, this program will prepare you. But you do have to pay attention to your to your instructors, take good notes, and make sure you complete your modules. Okay. And I've been with the district for 10 years. So I taught for 7 years, and I've been an administrator for 4, going on my 4th year, 16, 17 school year. Okay.
So did you just do elementary school, or did you do secondary also?
I've only done elementary school. But once you're an administrator, you can go up to middle school or high school. Yeah.
And to be an assistant principal, you needed just a master's or a PhD?
To go into administration, that's dean of instruction, facilitator, or assistant principal. You need a master's degree, and then you need to get your mid-management, which is your state exam for administrator. Okay.
And the master's can be in any area, or
yeah, the master's can be in any area. And what you would do is you go to Region 1 in Edinburgh, and they have a really nice program there. And I don't get paid for advertising them, but I'm just giving you info. But you go to Region 1, and they have I think it's 6 months. And they'll actually prepare you to take the exam and to get your credit hours to become an administrator. So, some of you folks that that are interested in that, I do recommend that. Now, before we begin, I just want to get a show of hands. How many of you are already teaching? How many of you have already procured jobs as a teacher? Okay, one person. Okay. So may I ask you what district or what school?
Atlos.
Atlos, okay. They're on Alton Glory?
Yes.
Okay. What grade level?
I'm gonna do middle school algebra in the fall, but right now they have me doing high school algebra.
Okay. Nice. Very good. With Yolanda Cantu, she's the principal, right?
Yes.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Now, another show of hands. How many of you are elementary folks? Elementary folks trying to become certified in elementary. Now, elementary is anything from EC, which is early childhood, all the way to 5th grade. Okay, good. Now, those folks that I just called, how many of you are going bilingual? Bilingual, the bilingual route. Okay, good. Good show of hands. Okay. If you're gonna go elementary, I do recommend getting your bilingual certificate, because most districts, especially here in Brownsville, in the Valley, they won't hire unless you have that bilingual stipend. And then, we do need bilingual teachers. Where are my secondary folks? Secondary, which is middle school. Okay.
High school.
In high school?
Considered secondary?
Just depends. Tomato, tomato. Yeah. And how about high school? Okay, good. Okay. Special ed? Special ed. Okay, good. There's also a big need for special ed, math and science teachers. A huge need for those folks. Okay. Before we begin, does anyone have any questions about, what we're doing here, or any questions about, the programs or certifications or anything like that that I can answer before we start? No question? Okay. We're gonna go ahead and jump right to it. I do ask that if you have your cell phone, please put it on vibrate. I do ask that please in your technology. Okay, I know that if you need to take a call, please just you can go ahead and step outside and take your call. Okay. I'm gonna try and not go too fast, but at the same time, I don't want to keep you here late, because most of us have jobs, we have other activities that take place, and I do want to thank you for your time. It's not easy, getting out of work, and then you have little ones, or you have other priorities you gotta take care of, and then drive over here, and then listen to another presentation, So I do want to thank you for that, for being here, more than anything. As you can tell, I just got out of school right now. I didn't even get a chance to go change, but it's the end of the year. It's almost the end of the year, and we have a lot of activities going on. We were supposed to have the end of the year bash, but the rain canceled our efforts. So I came dressed already to be outside, getting in the heat, and Mother Nature had other plans for us. Okay, so I do apologize for my attire today, but when the principal says you can wear jeans, you're gonna wear jeans, right? You don't ask twice. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to review our assignments that we completed online. Excuse me. Did everybody watch the video? Yes? Okay. So then let's just go ahead and do a rundown, see how we did, with the questions. And please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions, so that I can clarify some points. This is human growth and development. It's an interesting course, because these are learning theories, and it's all based on cognitive development. And we're going to talk about different researchers, but the two big ones which will be Piaget and Vygotsky. And you're going to hear these guys a lot in your PPR exam. Now, they might not refer to them as Piaget or Vygotsky, but you are going to be getting some of those questions that deal with cognitive learning and how students learn. Okay? And also, please pay attention, because your lesson plans, you will be having another course on lesson planning, and a lot of these lesson plans go back to the thinkings of Vygotsky and Piaget. Okay? Okay, question number 1. During the 0 to 2 years sensory motor stage, infants and toddlers acquire object permanence. Things continue to exist even when no longer present to the senses. Would that be true or false? That is correct. That is true. Would anyone care to elaborate on that point? Now notice the bold. What I do, I like to highlight the bold statements. Or bold words, because these are words that I've actually taken from the PPR exam. So these are actual wordings or phrases that have appeared on actual PPR exams. Okay, I like to, when I write these questions and I present to you, I only focus on what's important in the gist, so that you all can be successful in passing your PPR. I don't like to throw stuff that is irrelevant. Okay, so whenever you see something in bold, it's because it's important. Okay? and it's been on past PPR exams. Okay. At the 2 to 7 years pre-operational stage, thinking is egocentric, and thus the child understands the world to have only their view. True. Is that true or false? True. Very good, that is true. That's a true statement. Okay. Number 3, conservation is attained at the 7 to 11 years of concrete operations, which is the understanding that the basic properties of an object are constant even if the object changes shape. True. That is true. That is true. Number 4, abstract logic and thought begin at the 12 years and up stage of formal operations. These abilities depict the highest levels of thought. Okay, that's correct.
So after 12 years, you're not improving your level of thought. I found that a little.
Yes, according to Piaget, once you hit 12, you're already at your optimum level of thought. You're already at what he calls formal operation. Okay. All of us here are operating in the formal operation.
So we're all 12-year-olds.
Exactly, according to Piaget. Now, interesting. It's funny that you mentioned 12-year-olds because elementary folks that have to, the students that have to have the STAR. As you all know, the STAR test is, it's a state-mandated assessment. I'm sure everybody has heard of it. The way it's written at a formal operational stage. Yet, according to Piaget, are 8, 9, and 10-year-olds at that stage? No, they're not. They haven't even reached that age level. Yet the state wants them to pass that STAR test, and it is tough. It is tough. So, it's something to think about. I don't want to go too in depth, and because that's for another topic, but it's something to think about. Okay. All right. And of course, a college graduate is probably operating at the pre-operational stage in Piaget's stages of development. False, because he's operating at formal operations. Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about this video? Okay, good. Moving along.
But just how old was the presenter? She sounded really young.
I want to say she was just a narrator.
Was she?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. It sounded like she was 12.
Yeah.
But she was doing the actual
she was actually
charting out the things.
Yeah. She was,
She was a young teacher. So.
Yeah.
I was impressed that just read it.
Yeah, very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or reading a script, either one.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, now this is on the other theorist. This is on Vygotsky. Okay, this is on Vygotsky. Number 1, according to Vygotsky's principles, higher cognitive development requires social interactions.
True.
Right? Yeah, that's true. More capable peers, or MKO, are individuals who have a better understanding or higher ability level than the learner. True. Now, is that true in regards to, to how students learn? Does anybody feel contradictory to that statement? That individuals understand because of a higher ability learner? Is that true?
Not always. There's peer-to-peer teaching that can be effective. You can learn from your peers.
That's right. Yes, you can learn from about cooperative learning, small group instruction. Okay, all those strategies is because of Vygotsky. Okay. Development of the ZPD, or zone of proximal development, is reliant upon adult guidance or peer interaction.
True.
Yes, it's true. Vygotsky does not believe that language to play an important role in cognitive development. Oh. That is false. Why would that be false? Why would that be false?
Well, that's one of his main, I guess, that's like his main, I guess, focal point is that was like a difference between him and Piaget. Like he really said that it was important that children develop language early on and continue it throughout early stages.
Would anyone want to add to that? Yes, sir.
I guess because language is very crucial to social interaction. So obviously you communicate like that. That's how you learn. According to this theories.
Vygotsky really plays, and that's correct, sir. Vygotsky really plays an important role as a teacher. He says that the teacher is the most important individual that dictates whether a student learns or not. Because of course the teacher is the individual with the higher mental processes, and he's the one that's doing the teaching. And Piaget is contradictory to that. He says that students go through these it's like stairs of learning. So different theories, different theories, but you're gonna find that both of these folks, they're ingrained in the educational system of America. So, because there was a student that asked me on the last session that I did in spring, he asked me, Mr. Peña, which theories do you align more with? And I told him, it's both. Because both of them have good points. Okay.
But haven't those theories evolved, or haven't we come up with new theories? Because the student population has changed. It's so much more diverse, especially when you're looking at students who speak Spanish only, and maybe transgendered students. Like, how have we added to those theories that we, instead of just focusing on these two guys? Are there others who are contributing also that you are aware of?
I mean, I've read some articles, scholarly articles, that there's other folks that are adding to it, but these are the main theories, and pretty much, we have not gone away from them for the last 40 or 50 years. I don't know, have you heard of the Malin-Hunter lesson plan? It's grounded on these theories. The 5E model lesson plan, which are the two lesson plan systems that most districts use, they're grounded on either Vygotsky or Piaget. And they haven't changed for 40, 50 years. That, those are good points.
You mentioned that you sort of believe in both theories. If you sort of lean towards either theory, does it sort of dictate how you teach, or is it just, that's what you believe, but it doesn't necessarily impact how you teach?
I can tell you from experience that I lean more towards Vygotsky, because Vygotsky places importance on the teacher. And I felt that when I taught, I made a difference. Because I taught at Gardens Elementary, which is by Southmost. And and some of those kids, they're second language learners, and they don't have a lot of the parent support. So I got them in as a 4th grade teacher. I got them there, and I prepared them for the STAR. That time it was a tax, and then it became the STAR. And some of these students had never been successful. And when I finished the end of the year and I got the results, I was staring at 90%, 100% passing in different subject areas. That was my 3rd year teaching, and that gave me a sense of accomplishment. So reflecting back, I feel, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that I lean more to Vygotsky, because I feel that a strong teacher, with passion, a teacher with passion, you really can make a difference. And anybody that tells you that they can't should not be in the profession. Should not.
Especially in the primary years, probably.
Exactly, especially in the primary years, because that's where you shape them. Yes, especially in the primary years. Yeah. That's a good question. Okay, a teacher utilizing Vygotskian methods for teaching would be a very active member in his or her students' education. That would be true. That would be true. All right, does anybody have any questions after this video, after watching the video? Any questions, comments? Okay. Okay, now this one, this video was on Erickson, okay? And Erickson is another theorist that also, like Piaget, also believes in the stages of development. But he talks about, more of their social upbringings and what students go through, as they're going through through their different years. And some of you, some of you folks that have kids can maybe, sympathize with some of these points that he makes. I know that when I was, when I was a teacher and even as an administrator, I can see some of these stages in my own students. Especially so, in the students that have maybe been retained a couple of years, that maybe they're supposed to be in middle school, yet they're in elementary. You can see that they're very shifting to a different stage as compared to the students that are appropriate for their grade level. Okay. And we're going to go over some of these points in the PowerPoint in a bit. Number one, according to Erickson, insecurity and mistrustfulness are developed when the child is not giving the nurturing care that he or she needs in the trust versus mistrust stage.
True.
That is true. And this is an important point because, sometimes, sometimes we get students that are maybe foster students, students that have had a very tough upbringing. And here we are, trying to get them to learn the timetables when, they're thinking of, when I get home, is my dad going to beat me up? Is my mom going to leave me by myself, taking care of my three, younger brothers while she goes out to party? These are real life scenarios that happen. And unfortunately, if some of our kids are not giving, this security blankets when they're growing up, then that's how we start to have issues, with discipline, with behavior, as they're progressing along the school years. Okay, so and it's a sad truth, but you're going to have those students in your classroom, unfortunately. Okay, number two, during the industry versus inferiority stages, if children are allowed to carry forth projects and to take things up on himself to do, they will develop a sense of industry. True. Anybody maybe summarize what that means? Just kind of give me an example. This is Erickson saying that children need to be allowed to do things on their own. Because if you do everything for them, they won't develop a sense of industry. Anyone may have some examples to share?
Independence.
Exactly, independence.
Like my son, like when you do everything for them, they're gonna be. You tell them to fish, or you give them fish.
Yeah, it's like that saying goes, right? You teach a man to fish, he can feed himself for a lifetime. You give a man a fish, he'll eat for that day, and then he's going to be expecting that you keep on giving him the fish. Same thing with students. Yes, they have to be self-reliant. But this is a lot of this is responsibility of the parents. Okay, now we're going to talk about adolescence. This is middle school, high school. The adolescent stage, known as identity versus diffusion, occurs approximately during the ages of 13 to 19.
False. And 18.
Why is that false?
It's up to 18 only.
It's up to 18. That's kind of a trick question, because some researchers have said 13 to 18 or 13 to 19. It just depends. So that's actually a true statement. It was not a trick question, but I wanted to kind of to see how many of you were paying attention. That's actually a true statement. Identity and versus diffusion, those occur between the ages of 13 to 19. or 13 to 18. You know, and now these are approximate numbers because you know some students might be more mature for their age, and some might be less mature for their age.
Is it male, female to make a difference?
Come again?
Sometimes male, female makes a difference. Or
Yes, it does.
Or their experience of life.
Yes, it does. It does make a difference. Okay.
For guys, it's up to 45.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Number 4, failure at the identity versus diffusion can result in role confusion and can cause rebellion and self-doubt. True. I mean, we had a lot of examples in the news lately about you know, suicides and transgender, like what you mentioned. All this is going on at this stage in everything. These are folks that, you know, students that, you know, cannot.
We have a question in
Okay, let me just backtrack. There's a question that I'm confused about whether the ZPD, which is a zone of proximal development, according to Vygotsky, has a limit, or if since we're always learning, we continue to be inside the ZPD. It's a good question. The zone of proximal development is that ideal zone, you know, where Vygotsky says that's where learning occurs. There actually is no limit to the ZPD. You know, you just continue going, you continue learning as you progress, and you just keep challenging yourself. So, but that's a good question. So there is no limit to the ZPD. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, going back to this question, identity versus diffusion. So, you know, this is a big hot topic right now. You know, with students committing suicide, you know, transgender, or you know, students not finding an identity. So you have the cliques. You know, middle school, high school, you have the golf, you have the cowboys, you know, the preps. These are, you know, the different groups that are formed, the different social cliques. Some students that don't find their niche, you know what, I don't belong. Failure. And that's how you start to have other problems. Okay? And you see it a lot in the middle school, early high school. Okay? Usually by the time they hit, you know, 19, 20, they should have already exited this. You know, you go back and you reflect, you know what was I doing in high school? Why was I partying so much? I just wasted, you know, 4 years of my life. You know, but at that time you're thinking and you're in an egocentric you know, view that you're the most important person, you're the big man on campus, right? You know, the girls are, you know, powdering their cheeks and combing their hair because, you know, they don't know any better. They're living in the moment. You know, teenagers live in the moment. We were there. I don't want to tell you about some of my stories, but you know, that's just the way life is. Most students. Okay, so that's why, you know, Emerson says that failure occurs in the identity versus diffusion. Okay, so number 5. It is safe to assume that during the initiative versus guilt stage, adolescents may feel uncomfortable about their bodies for a while until they can adapt and grow into the changes. Why is that false?
It happens actually early.
That's right.
3 to 5.
That's right. It happens earlier. So that is a false statement. It's at an earlier stage. After watching this video, does anyone have any questions as to why they're confused?
Yes. Why is it at an earlier stage?
Come again?
Like on the last question, why you said at an earlier stage? I'm confused.
Well, when we go back to the PowerPoint, I'll show you where it says that. Okay? But that's a good question. I just don't want to sidetrack. But We'll go back to the initiative versus real stage.
So on number 3, you said that it's actually a true answer, even though on the, either, I think the video or the notes, it says 13 to 18.
13 to 18, yeah.
So which one is it?
It's, it's just, sometimes if some different researchers, they'll say 13 to 18 or 13 to 19, just depends, because different people mature at different ages. That's why. Yeah, so it could be 13 to 18, 13 to 19 approximately. And you can, when I'm going to go over the PowerPoint, you're going to see some different ages as well.
I have a question.
Sure.
So will all students or children go through every single stage?
That's a good question.
Because it does state that some of them take longer to go through stages and some of them don't go.
That's a very good question. Can you ask a little higher, maybe, so that everybody can hear you? Because that's a really good question. She asked, I'll say, she asked if all students go through every stage. What if you have a student that is ID? And ID is a acronym for intellectually disabled. Would that child go through all the stages? Probably not.
They're stuck in a stage.
Exactly, they're stuck in a stage. So, and that's a good question. So not all children are gonna go through all the stages.
So is that how you determine if a child will not go through the stage if they have ID? Because what if a child doesn't have ID?
Well, there's different disabilities.
Okay.
So it just depends on the individual. And of course, then that you would go on a case-by-case basis. That's a good question. Okay. Assignment number 4. Would anyone want to share the different representations of play? Well, I'm not going to go too much into it. Would anyone want to share some of their the representations that they drew up? Yes.
Solitary, I just drew a kid bouncing a ball by himself.
Good. How about for parallel play?
From the ball.
Put in the ball. Now, in parallel play, are they interacting with each other?
No.
No, they're not. Okay, it's like 2 lines. Okay, they don't crisscross. Associative play. What would we do for associative play?
Like role play? Do they role play?
Role playing. Okay. How about cooperative play?
It's like,
They're playing and they're interacting.
Sport.
They're interacting, right? Maybe playing soccer, maybe basketball. Organized or group play goes into kind of cooperative play, where it's a group sport. Okay, so they're doing something together. Okay. This is mostly for elementary, but but it's good for those folks going into secondary or high school tonight. Now, after reading this article, is anybody confused about anything that I might go back to explain? No? Okay, middle and high school. Many adolescents engage in an intense period of development known as adolescent condition are poorly prepared for secondary school and highly susceptible to antisocial influences. After reading this video and reading the article, identify and describe some ways you, as a future educator, coped with and overcame some of these challenges. Anyone want to share some personal experience as to how they cope with some of these social influences? Because they're out there. Would anyone? Yes, sir.
Well, I was in middle school. I had this best friend, and we had the same schedule in the 7th grade. And in 8th grade, they switched the schedule, so I really didn't see him. So I was kind of frustrated, and what I did was basically dedicate myself to band, like playing an instrument. So I kind of really put my energy there. So I kind of got the problem.
So band helped you.
I got into that, I guess, group, and just really dedicated as much as I could there. And then I slowly started getting other friends, and just felt like I belonged there.
So you found your niche. You found your group.
That's it.
So you were going through, that was middle school, right?
No.
So he was going through what Erickson calls identity versus confusion. So he found his identity, so he was able to cope. And that's what helped him get through, to school. Very good, yes, sir.
Can you be involved in more than one identity?
For the most part, no. Sometimes they do overlap, but for the most part, once you exit one, you're already in another.
Like what I'm saying is part of like the jocks and then part of the band.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, you're
So
talking about
activities more than.
activities. Okay. Yes, you can, because those folks are what we like to call, the social butterflies. These are the folks that are involved in different, different activities. They could be, your jobs. Yet at the same time, they find an interest in band, for example. And they're out there. Maybe not too common, but you have some people that are like that. Okay. I just give you a little bit about my background. English is my second language. I learned Spanish first, and then I learned English. And when I was going through secondary school, I came here, like fourth grade was my first year here, and so it was sixth grade, which was my third year learning English. And as we know, it takes from 5 to 7 years to learn academic English. And that might be a question on your PPR. Bakes and Calps, you're going to be having a training with Dr. Myers, I believe, Dr. Myers. He's going to show you about the bakes and calps. But anyhow, it takes from 5 to 7 years to learn academic English. So of course I was in middle school, and I'm still, learning the language and whatnot. And it is very, it is threatening because you have everybody speaking the language, and you do feel intimidated. So when I was going through, through that stage, like this gentleman said, band. That was my thing. I joined band, and that's what helped me cope with, with what I was going through. Because reading music notes on a staff is reading music notes on a staff. You don't need to learn English or Spanish for that, do you? So that's what helped me cope through when I was going through that stage. Had it not been for band, I don't know, because there was a lot of bullies, in my middle school, and that was my escape. So that was my escape. Had it not been for band, maybe I would have gone lost. And Erickson's in that stage where Erickson says, identity or diffusion. So I'm very thankful for having that opportunity, to have played, the saxophone, because that was my identity, and I just, to me, it was just so, rewarding, being able to have somewhere to go after school, and not being followed by the bullies or by the class, by the class, students that that like to pick on other folks. So I have my band pass, and I would go straight to the band hall, and that was my safe zone. So, and I'm sure some folks went through that too. And it's okay if you don't want to share, but I felt I needed to share this with you so that we can kind of get an understanding of what some of our students go through.
Can we hear from any bullies out there?
Yeah. Would anybody? Okay, before, yes.
Concerning that, for example, your language speaking from Spanish to English.
Yes.
What about those going from English to Spanish in a Spanish-dominated area like here? Kind of intimidated for ourselves. We're just kind of.
But in the classroom, it's not an issue.
Problem, Does that stage come? Is that still part of the stage even in adult life, or what would you call that?
I think you made a good point.
Yeah.
Because you're an adult and you've already gone this far, so it's different. When you're going through these stages and growing up and having to deal with all the peer pressure. Because as adults, we deal with pressure, we brush it off. But when we're going through these, elementary, middle school, and high school, it's just different. Because you're stuck there, and sometimes you can you feel that you can't speak up because you speak up, you know, they van a decir, oh, es un soplón, or, you know, he's being a telltale, right?
Especially for the boys, right?
Especially for the boys, because, you know, our Mexican culture says, no, eres macho, y te aguantas, right? So yeah, it's like you're caught in, you know, it's like you're caught in a glass box. So, you know, as an assistant principal, I will tell you one thing, I don't tolerate bullying, and I always act very swiftly and harshly, you know, and I investigate thoroughly when there's an outcry, because that to me is a personal annexation, you know, that I went through. So I want to make sure that my students are protected, because I went through it. Okay, all right. Would anybody else want to share anything else before we move on? Okay, about assignment number 5. All right. Okay, assignment number 6. Using what you've learned from the videos, articles, and presentation, answer the following question, and we can just, you know, do an oral discussion. Based on your area of certification, whether, you know, elementary, middle school, high school, special ed, which learning theory or theories most closely relates to the grade level you will be working, and why? Okay, limit your response to 1 page. Does anybody want to share their writing with us? That'll be great. Get extra points.
I don't mean to dominate. I know I talk a lot, so if anyone else wants to share instead of me. I chose Erickson, and I think it was I don't remember, I don't have my notes with me, but it was with adolescents, because I'm going to be teaching hopefully high school. And one of the things that he talks about is distrust for adults, especially in that phase. So when you're in the classroom, especially with kids that are, you know, beyond adolescence or in adolescence, it's good that you know your stuff. So I have like almost 30 years of experience in the workforce, so I hope to bring that into the classroom.
Sure.
So that it's not just about book learning, but I actually went through this and did that job. So hopefully that'll help me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because you're bringing a lot of knowledge from the real life into the classroom. That's important. Good. Anybody else?
I'm going with Piaget because I actually work for an after-school program, and in the after-school program that I'm in is pre-K through 5th grade. So what we've noticed in the after-school program is a lot of kids in their, you have pre-K staying from 7:30 in the morning to 6 in the afternoon. During the after-school program, which is from 3 to 6, they start learning how to socialize more after school than what they do during the day. During the day is more instructional for them, and they have to keep their eyes on the teacher and just listening to the teacher. They have a routine during the day. After school, it's a lot of social, hands-on interaction. By the time they're done with half semester, their social skills have gone up. We have heard it from parents to where they come to me and they say, wow, I never expected my son, you know, to go to the workplace where I'm at and ask him, how are you? You know, it would have never, you know, she would have never imagined it. But we get that at every grade level, to where they're kind of shy at first at the beginning of the school year, but they're socializing so much during after school hours with our activities, a lot of hands-on, interacting with the other kids, and their self-esteem goes up and their interaction goes up, your social skills go up. So that's what my
Your alignment is with Piaget.
my experience, yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You mentioned pre-K, right? 4-year-olds?
Pre-K through 5th grade, every
Okay.
grade level,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? And we heard Erickson, we heard Piaget. Anybody with Vygotsky? Anybody?
I like Vygotsky. I don't have any teaching experience, you know, other than just classroom observations. But I believe that social interaction is pretty strong, you know, like it really does have a big impact on the student.
Yes. So you believe that the individual is the ultimate factor as far as how students learn?
Well, I prefer that one than the individual.
Yes, sir.
Just with the Vygotsky thing, I think it applies, I'm a music background, and so I think the master and apprentice thing aligns well with Vygotsky, just because you as a teacher, and I think you do too, because you said that the teacher makes a difference. So if you as a teacher know what you're talking about, have that experience, you're going to impart that to the student.
That's right.
So they're going to learn from you.
And they do emulate you.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
do
So
emulate you.
as a musician, you'll model and they'll repeat. So you'll play or sing something, and they'll play or sing it back.
That's right. Good points. Anybody else before we move on to the PowerPoints? Nobody wants to share. How about this? How about this table right here? No, this table. Kind of quiet from the back. No?
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. I believe that all of them. I'm easy to 6 core subjects. So I believe, like it mentioned in the PowerPoint, that all of them are interrelated. But for this purpose, I chose Piaget because I believe that's going to be a lot of my focus with lesson planning, as far as the pre-operational stage where kids learn through pretend play but still struggle with logic and taking point of view of other people. So pretend play is going to be definitely something that I will be working with. Concrete operations from 7 to 11 years. Children become less egocentric and begin to think about how other people might think and feel. So all of these things are things to just be able to put into perspective when conducting your lesson plan.
Excellent. And the big thing with Piaget is, it's prior knowledge. That's the big thing with Piaget. He says that the individuals come with already some type of background knowledge, and it's up to the teacher to tap into it, so that other information fits into that. So I'm sure you're going to hear that a lot when you begin your educational career. Good points. Anybody else before we move on? We're not going to go over the whole PowerPoint because you've already seen it, but I just want to emphasize some of the important points that we talked about. And then we're going to do a little activity on Piaget and Vygotsky, and then we'll go over a few questions, and then it will be for us for today. Okay. And we do have a break at 7:35. 7:30. We have a break at 7:30. Okay. This is a rationale for why we're doing this, because a lot of times we might think cognitive learning is not something that I studied when I was when I got my bachelor's, because I didn't know anything of. But it is important because it's a basis for learning for students of all ages, from 0 to 18, 0 to 19. It just depends on the individual. Physically, mentally, or cognitively, emotional, or even socially. Okay. We talked about the 3 domains of development: the physical, cognitive, which is anytime you hear the word cognitive, is brain. That's the brain, and the social emotional. Okay, self-esteem, metacognition, sexual identity, ethnic identity, moral reasoning, different things that have to do with interactions that are of the social kind. Okay. What is a theory? An orderly set of ideas which describe, explain, and predict behavior. Okay. And of course, why are theories important? They give meaning to what we observe, basis for action, finding ways to improve the lives and education of children. Okay. we talked about, you know, the different theorists, but I like to focus on Piaget, Erikson, and Vygotsky, because these are the folks that you're gonna see on that PPR test. PPR test. Okay. Jean Piaget, handsome fellow. Okay.
It looks like Bernie.
He does look like Bernie, right? Bernie Sanders. No relation, I hope. I don't think so. Children from early childhood are active, independent meaning makers who construct knowledge rather than receive it. See, this is where he's different than Vygotsky, because he says that, you know, children construct their knowledge. Vygotsky is more, you know, teacher, student, social interaction. They're receiving information.
They're like sponges.
They're like sponges, that's right. Individuals make connections with their physical and social environment and are in some important senses controlled by them. He describes their understanding as schemas and how they use assimilation and accommodation. Now, of course, these are in bold, which means that you might see these on your PPR. Assimilation.
Excuse me, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Because I've heard PPR several times. I don't know what that means. Can you?
Thank you for.
Does everybody know what that means?
Does everybody know what the PPR exam is? Okay. Can anybody say that? What's that acronym stand for?
The acronym?
Yes.
Pedagogy, professional
Responsibilities. It's a Texas exam that you will take to get certified as a classroom teacher. And I do apologize. I should not assume you know, that you know some of these acronyms. But thank you very much for that. Yes, it's a test that you will take, you know, to get certified as a classroom teacher. And these classes that you're taking are going to prepare you, you know, for that exam. That's why you're taking these classes, to prepare you to pass that test. So what we're doing here is we're cramming 4 years of learning, actually 2, right? Because, you know, first 2 years of basics. 2 years of learning into, you know, into these sessions where we're focusing on the gist and what's important for you to be successful. And yes, it can be done, because I did it on my first try. Okay, and that was 10 years ago. And I think that it's you know, the delivery methodology, you know, by the flipped classroom is more effective than when I took it. So yes, you will be successful. Okay, I have a lot of confidence in that.
Okay, get that in writing.
We get my signature. Yes. And at the end of the session, I'll give you my email and my phone number there at school in case if you need to do some hours. You know, I will more than glad, you know, open my campus for that. You know, so that y'all can come and, you know, log in some hours. If you have any questions, you can call me. You know, I'm very open to that, to helping, you know, ASTEP candidates, you know, go, you know, get their observation hours, or, you know, or if I can answer any questions, you know, by all means, please email me or you know, give me a call there at the school. Okay?
Just one caveat on that, make sure you check with ALMA before, because there's a protocol that DISD has before you can enter the campus. So.
Yes, you will need to get cleared by the district, and you would just go to the campus, and then we will need to give you the, well, actually you can do it online, or you can go to the school, and then we can help you get cleared first. It's about 2 or 3 weeks, and then maybe you can start coming in and logging in hours.
Excuse me, what if you're already in a campus? Like, I wanted to go see my teacher, they're gonna go teach at Del Castillo. Can I just go there, or I still need permission from the district?
Are you already a BAC employee?
Yes.
Then you've already been cleared.
Oh.
But if you take some time off from your duties, you might have to take a personal illness or a personal day.
No, I'm gonna be off in the summer, I just want, because they're gonna teach summer school, some of the teachers, so I wanted to see if I can go do my observation hours.
Yeah, just go ahead and let me know, and I'll talk to the summer school administrator, and we can see, we can arrange that for sure. Okay. Assimilation and accommodation are the 2 processes of adaptation described by Piaget. Although one may predominate at any other moment, they are separable and exist in a dialectical relationship. Okay? So then these are the 2 the 2 learning, the 2 cognitive speeds. We have a question. Okay, there's a question from Laredo, and it reads, which of these theorists work would the presenter use when working with special ed students? That's a very good question. It's a very good question. In my opinion, Vygotsky. And let me tell you why. Because with Vygotsky thinking, as a teacher, as the individual, they're special ed students because they have a learning disability or they have another condition which makes them special ed, which means that they require you as a teacher to scaffold the learning at their level to go ahead and improve, improve their learning. In other words, so that they can be at grade level. You're gonna have some students that are special ed, maybe they're non-readers and they should be readers. So then, that maybe they don't understand abstract concepts. So then it's up to the teacher to scaffold the learning to get them to grade level standards. So in my opinion, special ed teachers would rely more on Vygotsky because they rely more on the teacher as as the one that's making the learning easier for them to understand. Okay. Good question. Okay. Assimilation involves interpreting new information in light of an old schema. Now, when they say old schema, that just means background knowledge, what you already know about, or what you think you know about something. Accommodation, process by which old schemas are modified to fit new situations. And these are just some examples. The child says, four-legged animals are read as dog. So a child would say, all these things are dog, 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 dog. Well, they don't know any better because they see the four legs, right? As the child is going through, through the learning phases, and you tell them, you know what? These are the characteristics of a horse. It's not a dog because, when you explain to them, then they'll start to eventually understand that a horse is not a dog. Questions? Just think, assimilation and accommodation. Accommodates new learning. Okay, Piaget, 4 stages of cognitive development. We already talked about sensory motor, from birth to 2. Object permanence, we talked about it in one of the questions. Pre-operational, 2 to 7. This is when kids learn through play, intent play. Okay. Concrete operation, when concrete is hard. So then think of, they have to have manipulatives to learn. If I was to be a teacher teaching 7 to 11-year-olds, I would be using my manipulatives to teach math. I would be doing hands-on activities to teach science. Because if you open up a textbook and tell them, read 20 pages and answer 20 questions at the end of the book, they're not learning. You're giving them busy work. Define these 20 words from the spelling book and write them 10 times each. That's not learning, it's busy work. According to Piaget, kids that are ages 7 to 11, they're thinking more logically, but their thinking can be very rigid. They still struggle with abstract or hypothetical concepts. So if you were to be a teacher at my campus, for instance, and I was to walk in your classroom and I just see nothing but worksheets being passed out, kids are not learning. If that's all you're doing. I mean, there's a time and a place for that. But all the time, that's just busy work. They're diddles. Formal operation, ages 12 and up. This is where we're in right now, according to Piaget. Formal learning, so these, you can already start thinking abstractly. Which of course, I don't have to bring manipulatives and stuff for us to learn, right? Because we're already here.
But we could learn better if we have those. At any age, you actually learn more
Yes,
by doing those things.
That's right, yes you can.
Hands-on.
And they probably would be more fun than just listening to me talk, right? Yeah, but you're right. It's like they say, we learn by doing, and even us. But for the purposes of the PPR exam, and for the purposes of teaching and these theorists, we're gonna stick to this. Okay, 7 to 11, concrete operations. If you do need the hands-on, 12 and up, formal operations. So if you get a question on one of those, I think it's one of the questions that I typed up in the question that we're gonna do. You have high school students. You know, you're showing them a concept on fractions. You know, and you bring cookies and milk for them to, you know, to learn, to explore. Talking about high school student, an 18-year-old. You bring cookies and milk to learn a concept on fractions. Is that developmentally appropriate? No, it's not. It's a fun activity, right? But it's not appropriate to their learning style. Right? Now let me switch the table. Have an 8-year-old, 3rd grader, and I'm showing them fractions. And I bring a textbook, and I'm just reading from the textbook. 1/4. This is what you do. That's 1/4. This is 1/8. Okay, let's put them together. Just from the textbook. And that's all I do. Is that developmentally appropriate? No, it's not. This is where you need to bring the manipulative. You know, you bring your pizza charts. You know, you bring out your grid paper. You can start coloring. You know, you make it interesting. You make it hands-on. You make it concrete. Okay? Always think developmentally appropriate when you see a question. It might sound good, like the one with the cookies. It sounds like, wow, this is a good activity. But when you look at it through the eyes of Piaget, it's not appropriate for an 18-year-old to be doing those activities. Okay?
One more question.
What do you think about technology for children, like using tablets in elementary schools? Is there a balance between technology and concrete activities? That's a good question. I know, believe McAllen got all their kiddos tablets, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure how that's going. But I think there is a balance because, you know, technology is the way of the future, but there needs to be, like she said, or he said, a balance because there needs to be a time and a place for it. Tablets and smartphones tend to dominate us so much that we're just glued to them. And, you know, but at the same time, concrete activities are important. So I think that if you integrate technology into the classroom, by all means, that's the way for the future. That's what we want to see. But it needs to be systematic and it needs to be structured. But I do approve, and that does need to happen in the class.
Excuse me. On elementary, do they have a certain time of a week or a period or something that they go to a computer lab where you can use them applications they use to actually implement the instructions?
Yes. There's usually a
wouldn't that apply to technology?
Yes, that's very right. Yes, you can. Usually it's like a 45-minute period during the week, and that's where the teachers take the students to the computer lab.
On my campus, we have an iPad lab.
Oh, you do?
An iPad, yeah.
You're in Brownsville?
Yes.
Very nice.
Southmost Elementary.
What school is this?
Southmost Elementary.
Oh, the Miss Almanza.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Who paid for that?
Very nice, very nice. That's really nice. Now, is this for all grade levels?
Yes, like every grade level gets to go twice or 3 times a week to use the iPad.
That's forward thinking right there. That's really good. Yes.
Yes, in my son's campus also, they have all iPads. All the students have iPads. The school district went ahead and we just paid like a $30-something fee a year to be able to use the iPad. So every student in every grade level has an iPad. So I've seen it actually integrated into. I went to go do some observations, and I got to see how the technology got integrated, and it was very interesting because like vocabulary words, the students are getting the vocabulary words and overhead projector, and then they're doing it on their iPads, so everything's like their note taking and everything. It's on the iPad, and it's very interesting. The students are very advanced in technology.
Oh, I mean that's awesome.
Lyford, it's way over there, close to
You're in
Rainbow.
the-
Yes,
Oh, okay, Lyford.
small district.
It's a small district.
Wow, that's forward thinking right there.
Have there been any problems with children losing the iPads? Do they get to take them home?
No, the children, they get them from first grade on, and the children are they love their iPads, so they take care of their iPads. If they like happen to, maybe break the screen or something, they pay just for the damage of the, whatever it was, so they can get it replaced, but they send it to the school, and the school gets it, replaced. The
Wow.
library kind of handles all
Yeah.
of the, iPads that are,
So
any
they're in charge of
issues.
it, okay, nice.
Do they take him home? No.
Yes, summer schools too.
No.
The
Nice.
summer they keep it.
I wonder if they have blocked certain things for them.
Yes, they do. So, but they can, yeah, they do have a lot of the stuff blocked, so.
It's just
how
for
about
educational apps?
Educational
Yes,
program.
yes,
How about
everything's monitored as well.
connectivity? How do they connect at home if they don't have Wi-Fi or?
Well, I have Wi-Fi, but, in the school, they all get to use it, and they do have it like in the park, I believe the park, they have zones where yes. But I believe it's in the park, in the Lyford Park that they
So
get.
they can use it there. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this technology is just so expensive that, whenever I hear that, I mean, I commend those districts for doing that, those schools. Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna go to Erickson. Psychosocial theory, he expanded on Freud's theories. He believed that development is lifelong. Emphasized that at each stage the child acquires attitudes and skills resulting from the successful negotiation of the psychological foundations and emphasized in 8 stages. And we kind of already went over these stages. And I noticed that, I know that there was a question about 13 to 18. Sometimes they won't put the actual ages, only because different, exactly, the overlaps. And different students, different people mature at different, at different times. And I know it's a little bit confusing. Okay, trust versus mistrust is, from 0 to 1 year. Okay, this is where they learn how to, whether they're gonna trust you or not. Autonomy versus shame and doubt, ages 1 to 3. If you have too many things done for him or her, you will doubt his own abilities. So we gotta, leave our students, our kids behind, and not behind, but show them how to do things. We don't want them to be too already dependent on us. I know it's hard. I have a 2-month-old, and she's at this stage right now. So right now she's learning that mom and dad are there for her. But once she gets here, a empezar a empujar un poco. You can't just keep them too close to it, because then they become overly reliant on us. You might not see it, you might not see the effects, but maybe not at that point. But once you get a little older, there was a break in this stage, and you might, the child might start to have some issues with doubting themselves and their abilities, because you did not encourage them to take responsibility for their actions. And you see that in this, kids that these kids develop discipline issues. Somewhere along the line, something happened here. Initiative versus guilt, 3 to 6. The child is allowed to explore and try new things, and if his questions are answered seriously, he will learn to take initiative. If he's overly restricted and his explorations and inquiries are vague or foolish, he will feel foolish about even bringing them up. And this is, at ages 3 to 6, they're in pre-K all the way to kinder to first year old, and a lot of times, early elementary teachers, it's important for them not to, make fun of students, for maybe some of the questions that they ask, because kids are going to ask a lot of questions. We need to encourage them, because if you keep putting them down, then, you're breaking them at this stage. Okay, ages 6 to 11. A real go-getter, if he has too many things done for him, he will begin to feel inferior and incompetent. The same thing, make sure that we're encouraging our students at this stage. Adolescence, this is middle school to high school. Middle school to just you know, middle school to high school, or maybe just middle school. This is where they're gaining their roles. At this point, if a child has proper role models to emulate, he will know who he is. If his role model are unclear, he will develop low confusion and will spend much time trying to find himself. This is where they're trying to find their identity. This is where you get a lot of the kids that, you know, might be more oriented to same sex. You know, you have, you know, because they're going through this stage. Now, if the parents reject that person, if the parents reject that individual that's going through these confusion stages, and the child makes an outcry, you know what, I'm with this, you know, I'm attracted to a boy, I'm attracted to girls, I'm gay, for instance. And then the parents overly react or do not support that individual. That's how we have, you know, suicide. We have issues with some of these, you know, students not wanting to go to school, dropouts, because nobody, you know, nobody gets them, nobody understands them. You see that a lot in this stage. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. With that one, have you ever had where it was a child? You know how they say with that, the whole gay, lesbian, the children already know since they're young. They know. Have you ever seen it in an elementary school child? And how do you, if you have, how do you deal with it? Like, how can you?
Good question.
Because they know. So.
You know, in my 10 years in elementary, I've yet to come across this in elementary. You know, I've never had a child make a statement or an outcry that he or she is more oriented to, you know, same sex. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in my experience, I just never encountered it. And I know that I was talking to one of my counselors, and she's been, you know, secondary, high school. She's done, you know, and she told me that she sees it more. She did in high school, but she says she sees it more in middle school. That's just from her experience. You know, and a lot of those, you know, students, they might be what they call in the closet, because they're afraid, you know, of what their peers are gonna think, because to them it's not normal. Especially if they don't have a role model they can look up to or that they can confide in, and they're just gonna keep that to themselves. So, but myself, I've never encountered this in an elementary setting. It's always, from what I've read and from what I talk to people, it's, you know, mostly middle school. Some high school as well, but mostly middle school.
We had one in our elementary, and the mother was supportive, dad wasn't. And then I think the other brother came out like that too, and he couldn't take it, he committed suicide, the dad.
That makes suicide.
Yeah, the dad committed suicide. Yeah, and he was a cheerleader there, I mean, everybody was okay with it there at elementary. He was a cheerleader, and both brothers were. Mother was supportive, dad couldn't take it.
Wow.
So we only had one case like that.
We have one student, I believe it's third grader. But I think the parents are supporting him because when it's pajama day, he wraps a ballerina with red outfit and everything, and he's outgoing, he's self-confident, and I think it's in the house they're supporting him, accepting the way he is. And he's very happy, it's a good boy.
At least he has supportive parents, so he has those role models. So he's finding his identity, even at a young age.
I have a question. I have a student, he recently withdrew. He's a male and he would dress up as a female. And he would go into the girls' restroom. So how does that, you know, how does that become a problem? Or, because we did, you know, address it to him that he has to go to the nurse's office, but he wouldn't listen, and I mean,
I think it's mostly a problem for the adults, because the kids don't care.
Well, I know
It's the
that some of
adults
the
that-
kids did have an issue, like some of the girls, because he was just sometimes rude, you know. And
What's the age of this individual?
16. But he looks like a girl. Like he's a girl. Like the body of a girl. Totally girl.
I mean, you know,
Well, aren't they just gonna pass that law? Aren't they looking into that law for even, they're gonna
They
integrate
just
into
passed it.
school?
And
They
I know
just
that
did.
yeah.
There's a
And-
restroom at Target.
They,
Yeah.
they get to choose their restroom.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually, I think you're gonna have to have a restroom that is
For both.
for both.
yeah, that's gender neutral.
Yes.
That's what it is, so that you don't have those issues.
And I think the restroom will be labeled as such, I think.
Even elementary schools? Like this is gonna start at
I
an early
believe so,
age.
yes. We have not gotten a directive from up, from district administration, but I mean, I'm sure it's coming down the pipes, because I know it, I believe it just passed. Yeah. Okay, one last question, then we'll go to break. Okay, what if teachers are homophobic? Does that ever happen?
I think that happens.
It does, yeah, it does. It
There
does
is a lot of
happen.
teachers against that.
I mean, but it's like anything, and this is the way that, that people need to look at it. Whether you're homophobic or not, because there is no ideal classroom. You're not gonna have everybody learning, you're not gonna have a class of 20 gifted learners. It's just not gonna happen. So you gotta have to have that mindset that, if you're homophobic, then you gotta look at it as it's just a child with different sets of qualities and different sets of experiences that they bring, and it's up to you to bring that forward and make them, make them strong and make them learn. That's the way you gotta look at it, not as as a homophobe. You gotta look at it as it's just a different type of learner that it's up to, your responsibility to make them learn and make them grow as a student and as a person. Yes.
So what was the question that they asked?
The question was,
If the
the
teacher is
teacher
homophobic.
yeah, what if the teacher is homophobic?
Does that ever happen? That was the second question you asked.
Oh, I'm sure it does, but maybe some folks might not want to bring it forward because that's discrimination. It is. It's a form of discrimination, and then you're getting into another set of ethical and legal ramifications if you do express, that you are, because it is discrimination, and there is a law that prohibits anyone from being discriminated, especially in a public school setting.
My brother's a teacher at Porter, and he's told me oftentimes that the gay kids will come to his classroom because he's very, accommodating and accepts and tolerates, and then he's had to report other teachers who aren't. So, it happens.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and give you a 15-minute break, and we'll come back and wrap it up.
And they know what to expect on the high school.
Bueno, Pero tomaste de nuevo o ya no? Entonces ya tomaste, entonces ya lo pasaste. Ah, ok, nomás en el control 1, 2, 3 la vas a sacar. Pero ahora lo vas a hacer ahorita con nosotros. Like math, English, and language, pero después la
Pero tú sabes que ya bajaron los estantes, ¿verdad? ¿Ah, sí? Ya bajaron. Sí, ahí está. No se me hizo, la verdad no se me hizo difícil.
Pero los standards funcionan
Yes, it's more easy for you to pass it because the standards, like instead of getting like before you have to, let's say an example, we have to get 30 questions, right? Now you only have to get
4
por eso lo tomé, no lo pasé,
Pero yo ella me dijo, perdón, para ese training porque se varía bastante. Ahí se recuperaste de porque te acuerdas que cuando hicieron el 97 que estaba en el webinar,
¿cuál?
ella dijo esta para pasar el
¿Cómo te no, ofrece Google Dictionary y sale.
No. Vende por pieza.
Si lo pago,
yo te cobro por la gasolina. Así hacemos bien con eso pagamos los taxis.
Después se los cogen por trabajo. No by mine.
En historia
Está todo, déjame decir my que no van a cobrar.
Pues igual yo la convenzo.
Digo, si pasó,
ya le cayó el rango.
Yo no puedo
y aparte dejarnos
Alma, No, llegó para el profesor. People were acting like Bueno, por ejemplo, si lo trae, porque no nos copian. Yo agarro y los mancho porque el sábado no está matando con el ritmo.
That was what I just did right now, and not to put anybody on the spot. That's a way to get people to be quiet. The louder you go, the louder they go. You talk once, and then you be quiet, and just give them the stare. 5 seconds or less, everybody, you got the whole attention of the room. So, it's different things that I like to, kind of just show you. Another one is, proximity. You have a child that's talking, that's doing something they're not supposed to. You walk around the room. Get next to the person. And I don't need to put anybody on the spot, but these are things that you learn. Especially if you have someone that's doing a walkthrough, somebody that's that's looking at to see how your teaching is going. You don't want to interrupt your instruction. I told you to be quiet, because that interrupts the flow of the lesson. That's why you have to practice these little things. That I'm showing you things that you're going to learn, so that when you're in the classroom, it doesn't impede what you're trying to convey. Okay? And I don't mean to put anybody on the spot. I'm just trying to demonstrate different methodologies to get people to to pay attention and all right. Erickson stages and school-age children. We talked about some of these stages already. I'm not gonna delve too much into them. Industry and inferiority. Individualization of instructional activities that will allow each student to experience the measure of success. A child entering school, enable him or her to be successful in school. The child achieves a sense of industry. Failure to achieve these skills leads to a sense of inferiority. And of course, that's how we have students that drop out, because they fall in this age, they fall, and they do not achieve what's called a sense of industry, a sense of belonging there. And that's them sensing a sense of accomplishment, that they're doing something important. Okay, achievement and diffusion. Okay, junior high. These are the junior high years. Secondary school. Developing a task of achieving identity. According to Erickson, the struggle to achieve identity is one of the most vital development tasks, and one which creates serious psychosocial problems for adolescents. At this stage, the adolescent is going through many changes: body, feelings, and thoughts. Exploration of ideas, goals, and values, and failure to attain identity can lead to talking about, they're going through all these changes, they're finding, where they belong, they're finding their social niche, okay? And some of these students that don't go through these stages or that fall, then it can lead to diffusion. That's why, middle school is such an important, institution that fosters or can break students that are going through this stage. High school years. Young adulthood entering intimacy and isolation stages. Formation of lasting friendships, even marital unions. Sometimes we have students that meet in high school, and and they get married, and then they're still together. I know I have some friends that met in high school, and they've been together for 15, 20 years. The young person who fails to know who he or she really is cannot achieve true intimacy. This is where you start making your bonds, and I know that, I'm gonna assume that sometimes some of you might have friends that you met in high school that you still keep in contact with, maybe one or two. I know I have maybe one or two that I still talk to, but after 15 years, it's just not, life gets in the way, but, sometimes you still promote and foster those bonds. Effective teachers understand key elements of human development in these multiple dimensions so as to provide students with both age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate instruction. Okay. Okay, we're not gonna go too much into this. This is another theorist, Elkins, adolescent egocentrism, and basically he just talks about puberty. He talks about some of these changes that that adolescents go through may cause discomfort, embarrassment, changing body feelings, and increasing sex drive. That happens a lot in high school. And these are changes that everybody goes through, right? These are natural changes. Two development characteristics: imaginary audience and personal favor. Imaginary audience, egocentrism, that others are preoccupied with their appearance and behaviors as they may feel that others are staring, watching their every move, in a way creating or reacting to an imaginary audience. We see this a lot in high schools. Oh, everybody's looking at me. You have the girls trying to look their best. Most boys are trying to look their best because a lot of times they're trying to attract opposite sex. So their mind, they're occupied with all these things. They're not really paying attention to the academics. You have high school girls wearing high heels and makeup, all of them. Boys wearing the latest fashions. The nice haircut to attract potential suitors. And they're already at this stage. Imaginary audience. Everybody's looking at me. Everybody. And that's egocentric thinking. And even as adults, right? We kind of feel this way sometimes. Right? We know who you are. But yes, we do. That's why when we go to the mall, right? Get nice and with Sunday's best clothing. You want to look your best because you never know who you might see. And sometimes, when you say, I need to go to Walmart, I forgot the leche, and you go in, all dressed down in your pajamas, and you find everybody in Bronco there, right? And you're like this.
But they look the same, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they look the same. That's called imaginary audience. Okay? And then the last one, personal fable. The adolescent constructs a story about themselves, a version of her life or his life, stressing the uniqueness of the feelings and experiences. They believe that my life is different from everybody else's, therefore no one can understand me, can lead to risky behavior and isolation. Some students that go through this, they start to construct stories about themselves. They're different from everybody else. Nobody understands them, and it can lead to risky behavior and isolation. Now, this can be the high school student that wants to be popular. I want to fit in with the popular crowd. How do I get into that clique? How do I hang out with those girls? How do I hang out with those boys? So you engage in risky behavior to try and fit in a mold that is not your identity. I'll give you an example. A boy and a girl. And these are things that actually happened when I was in high school. To belong to a certain niche, to a certain clique. How do you get there? That's how you get known. So you have this person, engaging in that type of risky behavior. What happens one day? They come back from Mexico. As a 16-year-old, driving dad's car. Passes the checkpoint on an international. Crashes into a post and almost kills himself. Wrecks the car. Risky behavior. To give another example, you have a female student that wants to belong to a certain niche or a certain clique. And how do you do that? Well, you engage in risky behavior that involves, putting your body up, for the gratification of others. And you see it a lot. If you want to belong to these popular girls, you want to be popular. and you think that's the way you're gonna get there is by, by engaging in risky behavior or engaging in that type of of intercourse relationships with with the popular boys, because you think that's gonna get you there. Personal favor. That goes back to this risky behavior. And it's sad to hear, but I'm just telling you the facts. This is what happens. And as educators, we can't really control these actions. But what we can do is, stress the importance of, coming to school, of trying your best, calling the parents. And these are things that we can't control. Showing up to school every day, with a smile, and knowing that you gave it your best, and hopefully you change the life of 1, 2, or 3, or 4 students. That's what we can do. Some of these stages are inevitable. I mean, students are gonna go through these stages whether you're there or not. But it's up to us to see, to rescue, to inspire, most of the students that we can make a difference for. And of course, this is Vygotsky. We already talked about him. Children learn from more experts, members of society. Social development. We talked about the zone of proximal development. And this just means that, children learn by social interaction and by adult guidance, by somebody that's more intellectually advanced than they are. Okay. Vygotsky versus Piaget. We're going to do a little activity right now, a group activity. These are just some of the differences between Vygotsky and Piaget. Vygotsky assumes cognitive development varies across cultures, whereas Piaget states cognitive development is mostly universal. Okay. So what does that mean? Piaget says that development is mostly universal across culture. What does that mean to anybody?
Maybe Piaget is referring that development is more related to more biologically innate. People everywhere they go through these stages. And
that's right.
Vygotsky is saying it varies by culture.
That's right. Piaget doesn't make a distinction between cultural bias. So Piaget says, you know what, a child from America is going to go through the same stage as a child from Russia. They're all going to go through the same stage. Vygotsky says that, no, it varies across cultures because, it depends on your upbringing. For instance, I have a baby girl, and I like to think I'm educated. So, educated parents, I put her in the best school in the country with the best teachers. I give her all the support structures, and I'm there for her 24/7. And that's the culture that she's living, right? Versus, I get the same child, and I put her and I moved to Bangladesh. Just an example. I work a menial job, no formal schooling, and she goes to school. And what she does at school is her business. But I need to provide for my family, so I'm working 18 hours a week. And she's attending the poorest rural school with no electricity, no light, and maybe 2 or 3 books and a chalkboard. And teachers that that don't have any formal schooling, they're just they're there because that's who the school can get. So if I give you those 2 examples, which child on the optimal condition is going to have the better upbringing? Who's gonna, the first example or the second? First example. So that varies across cultures. So yes, it does make a difference. Now, once in a while, you're gonna find some child prodigy that's gonna come out of, Timbuktu, and it's going to be, wow, where did you come from? Look at your upbringing. It can happen. But that's not the norm. That's not the norm. Okay? Any questions so far?
So it's basically nature versus nurture, right, is what you're saying?
That's right.
Right.
Nature versus nurture.
You read from Brenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Vygotsky states cognitive development stems from social interactions, from guided learning within the zone of ZPD, as children and their parents construct knowledge. In contrast, Piaget maintains that cognitive development stems largely from independent exploration in which children construct knowledge of their own. Okay, so that is, that's the difference there. Vygotsky places more emphasis on the role of language, and Piaget is criticized for a lack of emphasis on this. And this is that's the big difference. Vygotsky says, language is very important, oral language. And Piaget says he doesn't emphasize on this. That's why, the 3-year-old program, the pre-K program, I know somebody mentioned they did pre-K to go there. There's a big emphasis on language development. And according to Piaget, language depends on thought for its development. For Vygotsky, thought and language are initially separate systems from the beginning of life, merging at around 3 years of age, producing verbal thought, which is an inner speech, private speech, that's what they call it. Not gonna really go into more development that much. This talks about, it's another theorist, Kohlberg. And he mentioned a couple of times that he's not as important as the other ones we talked about. And basically, what Kohlberg says is that morality refers to the rules that people use to balance the conflicting interests of themselves and others. It's like a balance. Okay? He talked about 3 stages. Pre-conventional, concern on avoiding punishment and obtaining reward. Conventional, concern on meeting moral standards learned from others, maintaining law and order. And post-conventional, concern on abstract, carefully considered principles. Okay? The 3 levels that Kohlberg talked about. Okay? And then this is like a graphic organizer to see moral development. So for instance, did the person cause damage? Yes or no? Well, if they didn't, there's no punishment. But if they did he intend to do harm? Was he reckless or negligent? Should he have foreseen it? And if the answer is yes, was the harm substantial? Did it cause a lot of harm to that individual? And then the punishment is how much damage was done. Has the perpetrator made restitution or suffered from his action? Okay? Just a little graphic wheel to kind of give you a definition of how people process, right or wrong. Okay? And I know I kind of went fast, but you've already seen this. I just wanted to emphasize on a couple of points before we go into our group activity. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I gave every group, I think this is going to be a group activity, so maybe you can pair up with maybe one other person or 2 other people. And what you're going to do is we have the 2 theories. We have Piaget and we have Vygotsky. And what I did is I wrote down different statements. And I'm going to have some scissors and you kind of cut and then paste it, whether it goes with Piaget or Vygotsky. Okay?
gonna cut the strips off.
Es lo que estamos pensando. No. Pasando los dos.
Claro.
What's her? No, eso no. Ni yo lo quiero.
Yeah, we just
Lleva por 20 años.
Yeah, like.
Está bueno. ¿Cuánto tienes con él? Pero se enamoraron. Es que dice que tiene que hacer contigo. Y le dije, wow, se enamoraron.
No. Yo era vocero. No, ya no.
¿Por qué? Yo trabajé, yo fui supervisor.
¿En serio?
Pero me gradué y ya. Trabajo en Kitman. Con niños inmigrantes.
Quiero vacaciones.
Bueno, me dio la idea. No, me dio la idea. Yo fui, me presenté. En mi caso, ni inmigrantes. Con ella me pongo en contacto con la comunidad. Todo se tiene ahora para que enviarla de regreso a su familia.
Vamos a pegar un
Bueno, hace poquito todo salió, pero duró 4 años. ¿Hace cuántos años fue? No conocí a mi hermano Ernesto.
Sorry. No, it's a fact.
Hands-on activities during the
No era nada. Pero él era mi a lo mejor tengo juntos 9 años.
Tiene 9 años. Y el video y el
I'm gonna bring a Friday for you guys.
Never know,
No, it's only gonna be because we're generally all the stuff is for elementary. not only more like
Somebody that's more capable. Somebody like this, like more capable in have, for example, like right now, I'm doing
That's why I graduated from criminal justice.
Yes, once you're done, please write everybody's name on the either in the back. That way I can make sure that you participated and cooperated.
Creo que sí, no voy a tomar. Creo que
Oh,
Su mamá me tiró encima. Me dijo que la gustaba fallando y me presentó. Thank you. Oh, okay, well, let me have
I was thinking of that. There's two you make one people. But I didn't want to say it, you say it, so.
We'll go with that, so it's very fair,
Las películas que se suelten
Mi mamá le tiene confianza. Y yo le dije, no por eso, por ejemplo, como a las 3 semanas
la empezó a bombardear. No la creí, yo le mandé las cosas y ya me lo recuerdo.
Mi nombre es
Folks, we have 4 more minutes. 4 more minutes.
Oh, yeah. The one that is with
La verdad, no me ha salido.
Last time we started training
Iban mis
was all Spanish.
pero no pagaba. Yo mi voz, la jefe, nadie me molestaba. Ahorita todo el mundo persona que me
I think we did something about ¿Hay una
hay que examen.
Stuffy, right? Okay, yes, if you email me, I can give you the link. You can do it online. You need to be clear at the beginning of your it takes about 2 weeks. And then once you get your voting passport, you bring a copy of your license, and then you can have access to some operation hours. Oh, I'll give it to you right now. Can you send me the email, and then I'll give you the link.
That's right.
Okay, we're gonna start already. Maybe because I want to make you all early. I do appreciate your attention. Talking to another candidate or student, and it's not hard. It's not easy to sit here in a 3-hour lecture and be engaged and be active after a long work day. It's not easy. So I do commend you, and I do appreciate your attention. This has been an awesome class. Because it's not easy. I mean, I was in your shoes, but I will tell you one thing: it will be worth it at the end. You know, when you're taking your test and you get that letter from the state, you know, saying that you passed the exam. It will be worth it. Okay. So what we'll do is I actually just wrote it up real quick, and then here I'm gonna put either a P for PJ or a B for Bigatti. Okay. Since I've been doing all the talking, I'm actually gonna open the floor to you so that you can guide me and tell me what I need to focus. Okay? And then at the end, please make sure you write your name so you can get credit. Okay? On that paper, you can do it in the back.
So you can present.
Okay. First one, who would like to read? Go ahead. Advocates learning as construction. Is she correct?
Yes.
That's correct, it is Piaget. Okay, the next one. Do you mind reading it for us?
Okay, refers to qualitative periods or stages of development.
What's the answer?
Piaget.
That's correct. What's that keyword? Stages. Okay, always look at the keywords. And that PPR test you're going to be taking, it's all about the keywords. And here, some folks are like, okay, what does qualitative periods mean? I don't even know what it means. But I can tell you that I know what stages means, and that's Piaget. Okay? Okay, the next one. Anybody?
Encourages hand-on learning.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct. In my note just to make sure. Okay, the next one. Anybody? Yes, thank you.
Promotes gradual release using social contact and language.
Vygotsky. And what's the keyword on that one? Social interaction, social contact. The next one.
Individual must adapt to their environment. Piaget?
She correct? Yes. Am I going too fast?
Yes.
Okay.
So where do you get these questions? Like that?
These questions I made them up. Yeah. No, some of these I made them up, but I changed the wording around so that it kind of fits with some of the learning standards we need to do for the PPR. Yeah. Okay. No, I'll go ahead and read them and we'll just go a little slower. Okay. The next one, ignores social and cultural groups. That's Piaget. Piaget says, he doesn't care about the group effort. He's more about kids going through the stages, and that's how they learn. Learns first through person-to-person interactions. Vygotsky. And what's the keyword there?
Person to person.
Person to person, that's correct. Individual is primary in the learning process. That is Piaget, yes. If students were not improving academically, then their instruction, yes.
Can you explain the individual
Yes. That the individual, the student is the one that's responsible for his or her own learning. Because Piaget says that you're going through these stages, and it's up to that person, to pay attention, to do the things necessary, to go on to the next stage. In other words, the person is born like that, and it's as they go through the stages is how they're going to be learning. Okay. Okay. All of this one, the instruction is inappropriate. Vygotsky, yes. Teachers must align instructional strategies with their students' cognitive levels. So is it Vygotsky or Piaget? That's a good question. Yeah. See, this is one of those that can either be either or, but let me give you my interpretation of it. Because a lot of you are saying teachers must align instructional strategies, right? So then that's the student is learning from a more capable peer from a teacher. But then it says here, see, this is the kicker. student cognitive levels that have to do with the brain, which means motivation set, modeling, and assignments. So that's the teacher adapting their curriculum based on the child's present level according to Piaget. So that's Piaget. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Yeah. Yeah, that's a trick one. Okay, a more capable person, such as a teacher or peer, is paramount to student learning. Instructional strategies, scaffolding. Now, scaffolding means when you're making things easier for somebody, whether it be by doing a graphic organizer, like if you're teaching the problem solving, maybe you can help them with maybe with giving them manipulatives or maybe having them draw a picture. That's scaffolding. Small groups, cooperative learning, group problem solving. Who will be the theorists that align with these instructional strategies? Vygotsky. Now, this is another one. Instructional strategies, prior knowledge facilitates learning by creating mental hooks that serve to anchor instructional concepts. That's Piaget. Okay, learning can occur through play, formal instruction, or work between learner and a more experienced learner. Vygotsky. Hands-on activities aid in learning future complex skills in concrete operational stage. That's Piaget. And the keyword is concrete operation. Formal operational offered open-ended projects in which they explore many solutions to problems. Piaget. Formal operations offered open-ended projects in which they explore many solutions to problems. Okay, assimilation is information we already know. Piaget. Accommodation involved adapting one's existing knowledge to what is perceived. That's Piaget. Remember, accommodation and assimilation is Piaget. Interacting during shared activities, usually to solve a problem. Vygotsky. Interaction. Development of language is considered to be a major principle. Vygotsky. Language is the key word. Language in interactions. Two more. Giving proper help and assistance to children could perform a problem that blank would consider to be out of the child's mental capabilities. Vygotsky? Vygotsky or Piaget? Giving proper help and assistance. Proper help and assistance. Vygotsky. Think of special ed students. Special ed students rely on the teacher to help them go on to the next level of competence. The students should be taught how to use tools such as the computer, resource books, and graph in order to utilize these tools in the future. Should be taught. Vygotsky. Should be taught. Why? Because Piaget would say more exploration, free play. And Vygotsky is like, no, I have to show you. Yeah, modeling. Modeling goes back to Vygotsky. That's how you get the modeling. And all this is tied to the modeling. All right, any questions before we move on to the most important part, which is the PPR questions? No? Any more questions? We move on to the last part. And you can just leave those in your desk, and then I'll bring it in your table, and I'll pick them up later. Yes, please. Okay, how many hundreds? Okay, good. How many 90s? How many 80s? How many 70s? How many don't want to share? It's okay. Now, if you miss one, it would be oh, on this one too. Oh, okay. Okay. No, because it's only 10 questions. Now, this is the most important part of the session, because these are the actual questions that you might get on the PPR exam. They're very similarly written. I wanted to try and use the same verbiage to write these questions to prepare you for this exam. Now, the most important thing on these tests, because I've taken them many times, is those keywords. And you need to read that question. What exactly are they asking you? Because you're going to find that 3 answers are not going to really be it. And there's always those 2. It's like, oh, which one is it, right? That's why you got to read that question like a couple of times to what they're asking you to answer. Okay? So we're going to go over these 10, and then we'll explain. If you have any questions, please ask me. Okay? Okay, this is the human growth and development. Okay, question number 1. A group of second grade teachers are asked to design an intervention plan.
Is there any way you can maybe email where you would put in the P and the B, that sheet to the A-step people so they can email it to us?
Sure.
Because we won't be able to keep this.
Sure. That'll be okay? Okay. I'll email it today before I leave to the 8th. You give me the email address.
Yeah, we have it here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that today.
Or we can put it on the website.
Okay.
With the answers.
With the answers. Yeah, with the answers.
We'll put it under where?
Okay. A group of second grade teachers are asked to design an intervention plan for those students who are deficient in one or more areas of reading skills. One of the teachers, Ms. Sivart, chooses a plan that allows the students to rotate from one teacher to another, remediating one reading skill with each teacher. This will allow teachers to work closely with each student and set up individual study plans depending on students' previous knowledge. When students have mastered all deficient skills, they won't need to attend the sessions any longer. Okay. A principle for developing this plan is that students learn faster when they perceive they are learning less. Teachers are more receptive to teaching one reading skill instead of all of them. Parents are less likely to perceive the remediation as negative activity. Assimilation occurs more rapidly for the students when new information is linked to old information. D. That's correct. The answer is letter D. What are they asking us for? What's the question asking us for?
Assimilation.
Previous
knowledge. That's Piaget.
And then assimilation.
And then assimilation. See? It's all about the keywords. Okay? Very good.
I don't know why it's right, but I just know it's right.
Well, ultimately she talks about, you know, building the knowledge that you already have. So whenever, you know, the teacher is building upon that previous knowledge, it's kind of like building a tower. You know, you're slowly but surely you're building those blocks by linking information. Okay, number 2. 4-year-old Matilda is having a tea party with her mother and grandmother. After pouring all the tea from the teapot into 3 parts, Matilda states that there is now more tea than before. In other words, she gets the teapot and she pours it into 3 little cups. So she's saying, I have more. And she, remember, she's 4 years old. How would her mother, who is a teacher, best interpret this incident? Matilda has not yet developed object permanence. Matilda is indicating that she is now at the concrete operational stage of development. Matilda has not yet developed conservation of liquid volume. Matilda has not yet developed one-to-one correspondence. C. Very good, the answer is letter C. Liquid volume, conservation. If we go back to the liquid quantification. She's thinking that she has more. She doesn't know that it's the same amount. And she's only 4 years old too. Why would it not be A? It says, has not yet developed object permanence. Are we talking about an object first of all? No, we're not talking about an object. She's not in the concrete operational stage of development. Oh, that she's now. Is she now in the concrete operational stage? No. She's too little. She's too little, right? She's pre-operational. Very good. And one-to-one correspondence, that has nothing to do with the question. Okay? Very good. Okay, when students are in middle school, they require more autonomy. Which of the following satisfies this need? Okay, middle school autonomy. What does autonomy mean? Independence. Okay, independence. Think of Erickson. Think of middle school students. Activities and assignments that are designed to meet a variety of individual preferences. Maybe. Individual. Variety. Remember, you have different types of you have different types of learning styles. You have folks that are in different types of social cliques. So you want to make sure that you meet all their styles. The use of democratic procedures to make decisions that will impact the entire class. No. The implementation of blocks of free time into the daily schedule of the students. The determination of grades based on self-evaluation of the students.
It's either A or C.
Lots of free time into the daily schedule of students. Why would C not be the answer?
They're trying to develop independence, right?
That's
so
right.
Blocks of free time into the daily schedules, it wouldn't really develop anything.
It wouldn't help.
They would just sit around doing nothing.
That's right. Free time reading for middle school students. Texting. That's right. Yeah. So the answer is A. Okay. Yeah.
I just like the idea of free time.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Okay. Martin accepted a 7th grade position for his first year teaching assignment. He learned a lot about cognitive development in his teacher education program and know that these students likely operate between concrete, which is hands-on, formal operational thought, which is abstract thinking, which is where we're at. What should be the best instructional approach for him to follow to accommodate learning? Now, he's 7th grade, right? So think of Piaget, concrete operational, going into the abstract thinking, but they're not yet formal, right? Maybe some are. Use as many manipulatives as possible while focusing on activities that lead learners to more abstract concepts. Does that make sense? Always use cooperative grouping to allow learners to share concepts. Offer tutoring each morning before school to assist those who are struggling. And don't worry about the learners at their level. Focus on the average learner in order to assure that all students have some opportunity to grow. Well, look at this method. Always use. If this breaks all the time, catch it out. Remember, different learning styles. Okay. If it says always,
Process of elimination.
process of elimination. Offer tutoring each morning. Can every child come to tutoring? No. But it's gonna reach all students. Don't worry about learners at higher levels. So in other words, you forget about your high learners. You only worry about the ones in the middle of the road.
Unfortunately, that happens a lot in schools.
That does happen a lot in schools.
Because they're taking care of the problem kids, the higher learners.
So what's the best answer?
So they can go in.
Now, does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, because you're going from concrete to abstract. Concrete to abstract. Okay, number 5. What is the main advantage of using hands-on activities to teach content areas in elementary schools? Okay. Hands-on activities can promote higher order thinking and increase intelligence among children from all linguistic groups. Hands-on activities can lead to active learning and collegiality among children. Hands-on activities can promote higher order thinking skills and can guide students to construct their own knowledge. Hands-on activities can promote equity and freedom amongst the diverse ethnic groups in the nation.
See.
Okay, let's see. Main advantage of using hands-on activities. Well, let's use the process of elimination. Let's work backwards. Which answer can we eliminate?
D.
D? Activities to promote equity and freedom. Let's catch it off, right? Freedom. Ethnic groups in the nation. You can't really prove that, can you? Okay. Hands-on activities can promote higher order thinking and increase intelligence. Can it really increase intelligence?
Well, it can.
Well, but isn't intelligence a set number?
But it's from the all linguistic groups.
Yeah, that's right.
That's problematic.
And it's exactly. So, which means Spanish learners, ELO learners, kids that can come from China, these are all linguistic groups. So it's not going to be A either. Hands-on activities can lead to active learning and collegiality amongst children.
That's true.
Well, active learning, yes, but collegiality means that
Still gonna fight.
that they're all going to get along.
No. Let's see.
Hands-on activities can promote higher order thinking skills and can guide students to construct their own knowledge. Yes. Remember, abstract to, concrete to abstract. Letter C. Letter C. Okay, Mr. Alvarez is a high school social studies teacher at Arlington High School. He believes that motivation is an important component of the learning process. One day he brings cookies and milk, and I gave you this one already, as a focus activity to illustrate the concept of supply and demand of goods and services. Students eat the cookies and drink the milk, but find the approach to be awkward. Remember, this high school teacher. Identify the statement that best describes the typical of focus activity used by Mr. Alvarez. A, the focus is funny and appropriate to the student's cognitive development. Is it appropriate to the learning style? No. It's funny. It is funny,
It's
right?
funny, but not funny.
Yeah. The focus is effective and right on target?
No.
The focus is challenging and based on students' experiential background?
No.
No. The focus is developmentally and appropriate for the students?
Yes.
Yes.
It's always the Latino that has to mess up. Mr. Alvarez.
According to Piaget, stages of cognitive development, which of the following processes best distinguishes a student at the formal operational stage? A? Abstract. Formal operational. Yeah, the answer is letter A. Okay? Oh, I like this one. Which of the following activities would be the most developmentally appropriate for a first grade teacher to include in a unit of life cycle of plants? This is a first grade teacher. Watching a video about plants and drawing the bean life cycle, visiting a science center and touring the plant exhibits, reading non-fiction books about plants and creating posters, planting a bean and observing the stages of growth. D. Yeah, letter D.
We all did.
Well, yeah, we all did that. Yeah.
I still have it.
How they do it.
Make my tostadas, right? Spread them. Look at C, reading non-fiction books about plants and reading posters. Where would you see that probably? Maybe high school, middle school, high school. Okay. Watching a video about plants and drawing the beans life cycle.
Junior high.
Maybe junior high. Yeah. Okay, junior, high school junior tells a PIE teacher that he intends to drop out of school because school is a waste of time and a full-time job would enable him to make money. The teacher is most likely to be able to discuss this issue effectively with the student if the teacher is aware that many students at this age, it's a high school teacher, right, are not able to recognize and distinguish the various roles of individuals and society, find it difficult to apply reasoning skills to any issue that are affecting their own lives, focus on the present and have trouble appreciating long-term consequences, or view the authority figures in their life, including teachers, as being able to make the best decisions. C. Remember, they focus on the present. They don't really care about tomorrow. They want to make, they want to make money. They don't really care about school. They don't think long term like most of us do. They think short term. And that goes back to Erickson. Okay. And the last one. This one got cut off. Barbara has been assigned a classroom of second grade students for her first grade teaching assignment. She's aware that there are suggested age ranges for Piaget's identified levels of cognitive development and that in any given classroom, the cognitive abilities or readiness of students may range over 2 or 3 grade levels. So that means that she's going to have students that are gifted, maybe some special ed students, maybe some students that have been retained a couple, 1 year or 2 years that have not been identified, maybe some kids that are dyslexic, maybe some kids that don't have that label yet, especially in second grade, because most schools won't test students until they're in maybe end of first, early second grade for disability, because of their maturity and because of their developmental. So elementary, all schools, all grade levels are difficult, but I would argue, and this is just my opinion, and I guess I'm biased because I'm elementary. Elementary, we identify students. We're the ones that have to intervene and get them the help they need. So that when secondary gets them and high school gets them, they already have that label and we're giving them the support they need. But the identification usually falls with the elementary, folks, teachers, administration, diagnosticians. We're the ones that have to identify them. And it's a long process and a lot of work and a lot of paperwork. But at the end, it's worth it because the students get the help they need. But it falls on the elementary shoulders.
Get to eat a lot of cookies.
Oh yes. What knowledge about Piaget stages should she apply in designing an activity where she has students working with math manipulatives? And here's a keyword. Math manipulatives, hands-on. Easy through 4th grade students are most likely to be in pre-op or concrete elementary, right? Maybe. B, students are most likely to, how old do you have to be? 12 going up. Okay. I mean, you know, you'll be surprised. We have some students that are already there, but I mean, they're not too many. If a child, those of you that have kids, and this is just my view, if you have a child that's getting commended in the STAR test, you know, getting 98th percentile and up, they're already at that stage. If a child, let me say that again, if one of your, one of your children, or you know a student that's getting commended performance, which is 90 and above on these STAR tests, they're already at that stage. It's very hard to get, what they call the level 3 advanced performance. Doesn't happen too often. And those kids that do, their brains, and they're already thinking very abstractly, logically. Those kids don't require hands-on. You can move them on to abstract thought already. And if I was in the classroom, I wouldn't hold them back here. I would just, keep on pushing. Because then they get bored. And then they start acting up. And then they start not to like school. Okay? Yeah, you can't just teach everybody the same. You have to teach at the individual learning style. Always. Because you might have a question like that on the PPR, but you never do that, because then you're not maximizing each child's potential. You're actually hindering their potential. EC to 4th grade students are most likely to be in sensory motor and or concrete operational stages of development. No, babies. That's babies. Yeah, sensory motor. That's why you see a lot of the toys that come out now from preschool. They're all very very hands-on, right? Very touchy, with noises. They make kids, babies respond to noises and to things that they can touch, that they can squeeze. Because that's how they learn. To touch. EC to 4th grade students are most likely to be in sensory motor and are pre-operational stages of development. That's babies, right? 0 to 2. And this is a what grade level? EC to second grade. Second grade students. So the answer is letter A. Letter A. Before we conclude, anyone have any questions before Mr. Joe? Mr. John, before I give you the floor, does anyone have any questions, comments?